Workout of the day, 10-mile run, 150 burpee pull-ups, partition however you want.
Oh, are you excited to go to the gym too? Oh.
I haven't actually seen this hero workout before, and a friend of ours, Will, out at First Form, did it earlier this week. He did an insane time. I think he was about 90 minutes, is that right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I think, what was his mile times?
Like 6:50 to 7 minutes.
He was running 6:50 to 7-minute miles on the assault runner, which is kind of wild. I actually prefer running on the assault runner, but it is definitely not easier and it is definitely slower. So that is an insane pace, and it motivated Christy and I to do something challenging this weekend.
Fuel is going to be so important. So this is going to be a longer workout. Pat said 90 minutes. I think it's going to take us just right under about 2 hours if I did the math correctly. Some of the assault runners tend to be a little bit slower, and when I've clocked them on my watch, like he was saying, the distance is actually longer. So I'm gonna wear my heart rate monitor and my chest strap so we can show you guys all that data, hopefully, if we can get it. As far as fuel goes, that's what I was gonna tell you. First, I've got a banana for each of us, give or take. These are pretty big bananas, so they should be 20 plus carbohydrates. That should digest pretty simple. We're not super prepared because this kind of was on a whim this week. Then we're gonna have our hydration sticks. So I'm gonna take 2 water bottles, and each of us will have hydration sticks in there. And then on top of that, we're gonna throw in an LMNT just for a little extra sodium. And then I've got a shake made, which mine has a scoop of Ignition, a scoop of creatine, a scoop of Formula 1, and this is gonna be post-workout. And I did a full scoop of Ignition today because I want the carbohydrates when I'm done.
So I'm gonna be interested to see how I feel during this. When I ran the half, I was running every single day and kind of backed off of the heavy lifting. And as of recently, all the extra work outside of CrossFit that I've been doing has been following the performance aesthetics programs. It's a lot more like bodybuilding and accessory style work. I've gone from about 187 when I ran the half to about 195 currently. So I've put on some muscle mass or some muscle weight, and we'll see how I feel running, it's gonna feel like an equivalent distance. Probably a lot more muscle fatigue running on the runner.
I finished up, I can honestly tell you, that was one of the hardest workouts I've ever done. Pat is finishing his last mile right now. And I think it was hard because I just have a lot of thoughts. So we'll break those down at the end of the video, but it was hard on the runner especially because the pace felt really slow and I was sweating a lot, and also because I was choosing to do it. So it's not like I was in competition and I had to do it because that's what somebody was telling me to do. This is something we chose to do. This is something we chose to put ourselves through, and it was just one step at a time on the runner. And I kept reminding myself, one step at a time will get me to that mile. And I had all these little checkpoints that I wanted to hit within each mile. And that was really good, and that kept me moving. But it's kind of like life. Every day is just one step, and every piece of the day, there's a step. So not getting too far forward or too caught on what's in 5 years, on what's in 6 months, but focusing on each individual day and each piece of each day to help us achieve our goals.
Today's video is sponsored by LMNT. LMNT is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. So none of the junk and lots of salt. No sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS. Electrolytes are responsible for hundreds of functions in the body, including hydration. Water alone is not enough. LMNT is formulated to help everyone and anyone with their electrolyte needs with a science-backed formula of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. LMNT can help prevent and eliminate things such as headaches, sleeplessness, muscle cramps, fatigue, which can be common symptoms of electrolyte deficiency. Right now, LMNT is offering my subscribers, that's you, a free sample packet with any order. This is a great way to try all 8 flavors or share LMNT with a salty friend. Get yours at drinklmnt.com/Christy Ermo. This deal is only available through my link, linked below. You can get it at drinklmnt.com/Christy Ermo. Now back to our video. You gonna sit down? You gonna sit down? Dirty dog. We ran 10 miles yesterday, and today Milo went swimming. So he is absolutely soaking wet, smelly, and he needs a bath. Milo, come. Hey, We're about 24 hours post-workout from taking on CLOVIS. So CLOVIS was the 10 rounds of the mile run on the assault runner and 15 burpee pull-ups. Honestly, I was pretty smoked. I thought it was going to be a little bit easier than it was, and I think for me it was all assault runner. Obviously the workout is predominantly running. The burpee pull-ups do not take much time at all, and they were a lot of the recovery for me. And I quickly found that I couldn't even step back on the burpee pull-ups because that was blowing up one of my hamstrings more than the other, which was making me feel a little bit off on my run on the runner. So I went to jumping back and jumping in and just trying to get those done within about 1 minute and 15 seconds. And then my first 400 meters on the runner, I was just like, okay, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, especially in those later rounds. I think the most challenging part of my runs was from 0.3 mile to about 0.70 mile. Because the first 400 I was just kind of cruising. The middle I knew I needed to pick up my pace, and the end I really wanted to push into the burpee pull-ups because those were the recovery. I felt like I had a lot of time to go through all these thoughts, and the biggest thing that kept reoccurring to me was, first, I can't listen to a podcast while I do a workout like this, and that's because I'm constantly talking to myself and I'm aware of the self-chatter that's happening in my head. So I tried the first 10 minutes to listen to this really good podcast that I was pumped about. It was like a little over 2 hours. I was like, this is gonna get me through the whole workout. But I quickly found I was unable to focus on my body, to focus on the pace, and to focus on my positive self-talk when my mind was distracted with this podcast. So yes, the podcast had really great things to say. However, I really wanted to zone in on what my pace should be and how I was feeling each mile and try to maintain. So my goal was to stay under 10 minutes around, which I was able to do. I finished up in about 1 hour, 39 minutes and 10 seconds, I believe. And really I went out hot on my first effort, and it was wild because I was running hard. And I could not get my assault runner under 8 minutes and 10 seconds per mile, which outside for me, that's a super easy cruise. And I was working so hard. So my goal was to start my watch and show you guys the treadmill on my watch versus the treadmill distance on the runner, and I completely forgot. So I don't get to show you that, but I'm pretty sure our runners don't really calibrate correctly, which added in a whole nother mental challenge in itself. So all in all, it was really fun. It was really challenging, but for me, the things that I picked up most on is like your positive self-talk and what that chatter is for you. For me, it was continue putting one foot in front of the other. If I can just keep doing that, then I'm gonna reach my end goal of finishing this 10-mile run. If I stop and I start worrying about this end goal on mile 2 of 10, then I'm just getting caught up in something that's in the near future. I think we can apply that to life. Every day, every hour of the day, every meal, whatever it is, every day, focusing on the present and what we can do to get closer to our goal without skipping those hurdles and just focusing on the end goal, but thinking about the process, the journey, and each little step to get us there.
My hips are wrecked. It was a slow morning getting out of bed. It took like an hour before I was able to walk what I felt like is like somewhat normal. I actually prefer running on the assault runner. I'm not a very proficient runner, so running outside I tend to be a little bit flat-footed. The limiting factor for me yesterday was not like cardio. I felt like I was in like fitness-wise very good shape. It wasn't like there was a big difference between how I felt running the half versus running here, but it absolutely blew my legs up because you're having to pull every step. For me, my legs are typically the limiting factor when I run anyway. They just get heavy, more so than my conditioning. Being on the runner, I literally just felt like I was doing, like banded kickbacks for like 2 hours straight. And my hamstrings and hips were just like on fire and full of blood. It wasn't necessarily like a hard workout. I mean, it was a very hard workout, but it wasn't necessarily hard in the sense that like, it was hard to finish. Like we set that goal and like staying checked in, I felt like it was a pretty reasonable thing to do up until about round 8. My paces were somewhat similar. I started off at like 9 minutes a mile and I thought I was gonna be able to hold that, and by like round 2, I was already feeling it in my hamstrings and was like kind of pulling that pace back a little bit, knowing that I had to maintain that for another 8 or 9 miles. By the time I did get to the 8th and 9th mile, I kind of fell apart. I had to do a little bit of walk running for those last 2. I was definitely going to finish it, but my legs were so blown up that it was just like, run for 400, take a few steps, run for 400, take a few walking steps. And the burpees again were like kind of a break, but bending over each time was just like, it felt kind of good stretching the hamstrings, but it was also just exhausting. The whole thing being done on the runner was extremely taxing on the posterior chain. It's probably a one and done, maybe. Unless we do that one outside, I think that'd be a completely different workout and stimulus running that outside versus on the runner. But it was a great challenge. It was something fun to do. And it's nice to just have the fitness to be able to decide to do something like that and be able to kind of jump in and do it. We did a bike ride today, just kind of flesh things out on the C2, but it's not like there was a bunch of particular or specific training that went into doing that. Saw a friend do it, crushed it, and inspired us to give it a shot. And we jumped in and just gave it a go.
Hey, I want you in this. I'll make this somewhat quick, but I thought of a couple more things I wanted to share with you all. And as you can see, Milo's glued to my side. He was on my left, now he's shifted to my right. I really wanted to touch on the challenge and why we did it. I was telling people and telling Patrick this, is like, I saw our friend post this and I was like, that is such a good challenge and I'm craving a challenge. I'm craving something that we really haven't necessarily trained and prepped for specifically, but that's gonna take me to my limit mentally, that I'm choosing to do. I'm not stepping on the floor and throwing at thousands of people like at the CrossFit Games in the marathon row where somebody's telling me I have to do this to get these points. But instead it was just Patrick and I in the gym with, of course, Milo. And we're just pushing ourselves to the limit, seeing what we're made of and seeing if we can really do it. And I crave those challenges. That was similar to how the 1,000 burpees felt for me. Can I actually do this? Can I hold this pace that I want to hold? And I'm doing it because I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for Instagram. I'm not doing it for YouTube. I'm not doing it for points on the competition floor. I'm doing it to fill my cup and to challenge myself, because I feel like in today's society and just the way that we live, we can live a very comfortable life. So finding ways to challenge ourselves outside of that comfortable life is really important to me. So whatever that is for you, if you want to take on half of this, if maybe you're not used to running 5 miles, maybe you do 5 rounds, 1 mile run, 15 burpee pull-ups, and maybe you progressively figure out other challenges like this that will take you outside of your comfort zone. And that's really where you learn the most about what kind of mental chatter you have. Like I said, I couldn't listen to a podcast. So you learn so much about yourself that you can apply into your everyday life.